improve on the research. There were a few mistakes that you made, maybe a few to do with terminology and stuff like that. So I think you could beef up your research and it could be better. And the structure of your presentations, I noticed that it seemed like you wanted to stick too much to your written submissions, and the structure of your submissions was to first discuss the law and then go to the arguments. But I think the better thing for you to do is to tell the court what you have come to do. Instead of saying, would like the court to decide whether this, whether that, whether that. When you're introducing, maybe tell the court that this is the position of the applicant. The applicant will submit to the court that the state was in violation for these reasons. And then you make your submission and then back it by the law, instead of just throwing everything in there and just referring to every authority you know on the subject. So I think that the structure could be better. Even the structure of your written arguments, I also think it could be improved in terms of not just throwing every authority in the arguments, but then you need to look for the most pertinent authority for a particular point. And in relation to authorities, I think you may have noticed that we asked you a lot about whether you have Malawian authorities, because there's a hierarchy of authorities. You cannot cite a foreign case when there's Malawian jurisprudence on a certain point. And the jurisprudence of Malawi has developed considerably well, so you ought to have done better in terms of finding Malawian sources. But otherwise, I thought that you were all great. And another thing is, when the court asks you questions, sometimes it's not to antagonize you or to throw you off track. Sometimes it's to guide you. So perhaps you should not always be in a defensive mode, but to also look at the guidance that the court is trying to give you. Those are the observations that I made, but otherwise I think all of you were great, and I think we can all give them a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Judge Mbvundula. Judge Ulaya?
Thank you, the participants and also the audience. I've got a few observations and comments. First of all, I wanted to talk about the written arguments. So, the written arguments are called skeleton arguments. Yeah, it's supposed to be a structure to guide you when you're presenting your case. You're not writing an essay. You're not writing submissions. So they have to be as brief as possible. Okay, you would want the court to appreciate. You don't want the court to be looking for the arguments. Come out clear. This is our argument, and we are arguing like this because of this. Simple. So don't go about wondering. Don't surprise the court. Tell the court, I want you to see this is the argument which I'm going to make. And we're going to make these arguments because of these reasons. Simple. Skeleton argument. Okay. And like my colleague stated, you don't need to include unnecessary legal authority. Okay. Straight to the point. Our argument is this because this case says this, or this legal provision says this. Okay? If you want to explain, then when you're making your oral arguments, you have time to explain, to give examples, but not in the skeleton arguments, because they are skeleton arguments. So make sure that when you're making an argument, support it with an authority. Okay? So don't leave your argument hanging. Always provide an authority. It's your justification for making that argument. So even if you are asked a question from the panel, you don't have to leave your position. Okay? If you have an authority for your position, you stand for it. So when you're responding to the questions, make sure that you are defending your position based on an authority. That's what we do. So don't shake, don't fear, because you've got an authority for your position. So that's what you do. So you don't change your position because you agree with the person asking you a question. No. You stand for your position, you back it up with a legal authority. I think that's all from me.
Thank you so much, Judge Ulaya. I do not have much to say. Like we usually say, we'll say, I have nothing useful to add. I adopt the reasons given by my colleagues. But let me just say, I think, say two things. Starting last year, we are now into the second year of Moot court competition. I would like to commend the faculty as well as the university for holding these competitions, and it is my desire that they continue. Would have loved actually if they were done maybe twice in a year in the academic calendar. They help a lot. There is a reason why they quote Moot competitions and not mock trial. These are real things. You transplant this is what you get when you leave this institution. So it's my call that you take this exercise seriously, because when you go out there, Judge Mbvundula, who will soon be retiring as a judge, and Judge Ulaya, who will tell you what it is when you appear before a real judge somewhere there. You are lucky that I'm here, a real one. So take these exercises seriously. Moot competition, they will mood you, because this is what you are going to get. The questions that we are raising, these are the questions that you also get when you go out there. There was a point that was raised by my colleagues here. Why are you called counsel? You are called counsel because you are not there only representing the interests of your client. You are there to help the court come at a proper decision. That is why you are called counsel. I will ask you to go back, take your dictionaries, take the word counsel from your dictionaries. You will see what it means, advising somebody. So you also advise the court. So when you come to the courts with a view that we are going to help the court come up with a decision. These are the comments that I wanted to say. Like I said earlier on, I have nothing useful to add, but adopt what the two colleagues said. Now, getting to the actual verdict. Here is the verdict of the court. For best orist, it's Nicole Chombo. Best written submissions, Nicole Chombo and Michael. At third place, there is Stefano Kamwaza. That's the name? Yes. Stefano Kamwaza. And Emmanuel Kaison. Is Kaison. Yes. Runners up. Noma Shema and Oweni Mkandawire. Yes, your guess is as good as mine. The winners are Nicole Chombo and Michael. That's a verdict. And I'm advised that there is no other court above this court. Nobody appeals against it. Thank you so much, Coordinator, HOD, and Dean of the faculty.
Thank you so much, my Lord. Congratulations to both teams. It was an intense session. Congratulations to Nicole and Michael. Congratulations, Owen and Mark. May I ask the Dean of Faculty to come and make closing remarks? After that, he will preside over the presentation of the prizes for the successful participants.
Good afternoon. Whilst I appreciate that the court stands functus officius, a question arises for consideration at another hearing, which is exactly whether I can claim to have the right to religion, freedom of conscience, believing that there is only one Lord Jesus, and therefore I cannot call human beings who are judges lords. And so what I will simply do is to make sure that I remain within my conscience. I will not say my lords and my lady. I will say my law and my lady. On a lighter note, I'm not here to make a speech like class or teach, comment on the presentations. Mine here is just thank yous and congratulatory messages. First and foremost, let me invite all those who participated from first round to today to please stand up. It takes stamina to expose yourself, to challenge yourself, and for the winner participation, you too are winners, and they deserve an applause. Don't stop there, keep pushing. You may just end up there. Thank you, sit down. Let me thank the head of department, Practical Legal Studies, Mr. Kadiam Paken, who, for the second year running, has successfully organized and run this Moot competition. A big hand for Mr. I have no doubt in my mind that as we grow the faculty, we will take this Moot participation to international levels within Africa and even to Europe if we successfully manage to connect those links with working universities that we are discussing with at present. So, for those of you who are in first year, second year, be assured that you have an opportunity ahead of you. Those of you in third year, I thank you. Let me thank the panel of judges right from the start with Nolomi Sanjo and Mesem Supa and Mr. Bandawe, the second panel in which we also had a few lawyers, and finally the final panel here comprising of Justice of Appeal, Justice Kapanda, and retiring Justice Mbvundula and retiring Justice Ulaya. Thank you very much for making yourselves available and for your input and for all the comments and guidance that you have constantly offered to our students participating and those watching. Thank you very much. A round of applause to you.
The next recipients are the third place winners, Father Stefano Thomas and Emmanuel.
Looks like a side.
The runners up, Norman Shanya and Owen Katawin. Then we have the winners, Nicole Chombo and Michael Support.
Court rise.